Well, welcome to Wednesday. Thank you so much for that setup. Hopefully I'll be inspiring and uplifting with my comments on today. So welcome to Wednesday and welcome to the 2021 PhD Project Annual Conference. It is an absolute privilege to be here with you today on the virtual stage. And a special thank you to Blaine and all of the PhD Project staff. If I started naming them, I would get in trouble. So I'm going to make sure that I just stay at this high level. But thank you so much for the work that is done behind the scenes to make this event spectacular on the agenda components. And I am so happy that they've entrusted me with this spot on the agenda to open up the session for you. You're in for an absolute treat over the next few days. I've been in your shoes twice. I didn't get the memo the first time, so I had to come back and do it again, but you will enjoy every minute of this experience. So if you want to interact during the session, make sure you can drop things in the Q&A, any questions or comments or shout outs that you want to give, and the team will get them over to me so you can make sure you can engage while I'm having this discussion with you. Now, the agenda notes that my address is, defining your purpose. Well, I hate to tell you, that's not what I'm going to say on today. That's not what I'm going to be sharing. So I'm going to reach back into my, Black church traditions, since we're amongst family and friends. And I'm going to speak from the topic this morning of what are you doing here? Now, depending on how this phrase is uttered, is how it's received by the recipient. What are you doing here? What are you doing here? And what are you doing here? You doing here. Different inflections or intonations or enunciation, it will resonate with the receiver differently and have a differential message on the brain. And for our short time together, I will examine these words to hopefully help your brain prepare to process and assess these words and hopefully get you closer to defining your purpose. So first, let's talk about you. Yes, you. Almost 200 of you all were invited to the annual conference, representing a diversity of experiences, thoughts, complexions, and goals. You represent the ballers and shot callers, literally. You see, because we have attendees that play collegiate ball on a women's basketball team at Virginia Commonwealth University. And we have an attendee that is the school board president for the Grapevine Colleyville ISD, representing over 14,000 students in Texas. We have family members, devoted moms, dads, aunties, uncles, significant others, daughters, sons, and cousins. We even have an attendee that says they have 100 cousins that they're probably trying to explain what a PhD is in the first place. We have dreamers and natural educators. One attendee stated that education has been a word synonymous with both freedom and opportunity in my life. Another attendee received their college degree after serving some years in incarceration, and they're here because they want to show their community that anything, and I mean absolutely anything, is possible. And finally, they're the inspired ones that are attending because of, they're a product of the early PhD project members. And one is a product of Morehouse College, where the late Dr. Cheryl Allen was one of those 4 founders of the PhD project, along with the late Dr. Sandra Shelton, who we just celebrated not too long ago. And both of those educators have left a lasting legacy on business school education, and more specifically in the Accounting Academy. You see, your story is my story. I arrived in my first PhD project conference in 1995, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, straight out of undergrad at North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University. I know there's some Aggies in the building. And because I was so inspired by my professors that I wanted to make an immediate change and take some immediate action. But after the conference, I realized I didn't want to take an immediate action to my finances right yet. So I went to work. And so I worked. And so as I transitioned into the accounting profession for several years as a practitioner at a big firm and as a regulator, and, I kept going, and I came back to the project conference to see if it was time to put into action a dream of yesteryear that I've been doodling about all on my notes and papers and thinking about. Doctor, PhD, could I do that? So I came back to the conference after another 10 years from my initial, or 15 years after my initial coming, to see whether I was going to do this thing or pack this somewhere with the fear of the unknown. Like you, I was curious. I was tired. I had some trepidation. I was unfulfilled. I was a little excited and terrified. And that was just at trying to fill out the application. But here you are now embarking on maybe a whim or a very developed plan, because we know that there is something greater for you. You are needed. PhD Project Accounting faculty members, Dr. Jennifer Joe and Dr. Helen Brown-LaBerge, looked specifically at the Accounting Academy and noted that underrepresented minorities represented less than 5% of the total doctoral faculty in that discipline, which is in stark contrast to the US population that we serve. In 1994, there were 78 Black doctoral accounting faculty with PhDs, approximately 20 Latinx professors, and for American Indian and Alaskan Natives, the numbers were minuscule. Now, other disciplines outside of accounting might be slightly more inclusive, but if we go to the history of the PhD project, as we just heard in the earlier session, in 1994, we started with a little bit under 300 professors having a PhD. And now, fast forward, we have increased that number to around 1,400, representing about a 400% increase. Now, this increase, while admirable, still needs improvement. In the latest 2021 AACSB Business School Data Guide, when they were assessing full-time faculty, here are the percentages. 0.2% American Indian or Alaskan Native, 3.9% African American or Black, 2.8% Latinx, and 0.4% of those representing two or more races. These percentages show that even in this environment of heightened focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion, we still need foot soldiers to carry the message of inclusion and diversity into the classrooms with your intellectual curiosity and your willingness to serve. Hey, you, are you up for the challenge? Now, if you are up for the challenge, what are you doing? Now, doing is the present participle of the verb do. Now, if we go back to grammar, we know that a verb connotates action. A present participle is a participle that typically expresses present action in relation to the time expressed by the finite verb. Said differently, doing means what present action are you performing to activate your do? Now, some of us like to-do lists. I like them. I have one right here on my desk. Love it. And it allows for a summary of things that need some action in order for completion. But if we are really honest with ourselves, some of us like the list more than we like the action. Remember that I said I came to the PhD annual conference twice, one in 1995 and fast forwarded some earlier years. Well, you know, I worked in the accounting profession, had a fantastic time, and I did all sorts of things related to training and recruitment that kind of gave some temporary fulfillment to this purpose itch that I had. You know, for years, I would visit classrooms and hang around academia, but never did anything more to move the thought off of my to-do list. I was always thinking, ruminating, conjuring up worst-case scenarios, talking about it, looking at it, fantasizing about it, but never taking any meaningful action to make sure that this passion that I had, that I could move forward. In my small town of Halifax, North Carolina, they would say I was fixing to do something, but never doing it. Now, the beauty of the PhD project family that you are now a part of is that there's always a truth teller. And most of the time, there are a whole lot of truth tellers that will call you on your stuff. Now, Dr. Aretha Hill, who preceded me at Texas A&M in pursuing her PhD in accounting and is now serving as faculty at Florida A&M University, was one of my truth tellers. We were both serving in the state of Georgia, and I would see her at various Georgia Society of CPA educator events, and we would have conversations. And one time I talked to her and I launched into my Broadway spectacular about how I would love to be a professor and blah, 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 blah. And Aretha, with all the authority of a Nike CEO, looked me dead in my face and said, just do it. Now, are you like me that's been doing a whole lot of dreaming and carrying on and talking, but no action? Well, if so, this tip is for you. Just do it. Take the GMAT, write the personal statement, ask a gazillion questions at the university fair, map your application strategy, contact the PhD program coordinator, craft your networking email, read Getting What You Came For, which is an excellent book. Listen to all of the sessions, find new friends, smile, dance, sing, anything, but just do it. Another PhD project faculty member, Dr. Nicholas Pierce, wrote a book that blew my feeble little brain cells. The book is called The Purpose Path, calls the reader to align their daily work with their life's work. I believe that you, like me, are in the state of doing the hard work on the way to purpose. Purpose is what nags you and will not let you go, that innate cosmic genetic DNA that you were sent to Earth for. Everybody wasn't sent here for your purpose, because only you can investigate why and how organizations respond to pandemic crises. Only you can evaluate whether ESG reporting improves or is a detriment to firm performance. Only you can analyze how capital is formed for entrepreneurs in emerging countries. Only you can assess the implications of blockchain and AI and robotic process automation and cloud computing. Only you can determine how social media marketing impacts consumerism. Now, purposeful living does not come by watching or waiting. It comes by doing. Now, sometimes when you are doing the things on the road to purpose, it can get a little lonely, possibly isolating. You may feel that the folks, the family, and the friends just don't get you. To paraphrase one of my favorite books, purpose looks like crazy on an ordinary day. Purpose will have you leave your 14th floor office, move to a state that you've never been in before, complete courses you have never heard of, enter into academia in a place that's real cold in the mountains, find yourself right back at your alma mater. That's what purpose does. When you share your desire and your purpose to pursue this highest level of academic achievement, you may get blank stares or, what are you doing that for? Your vision is so clear and so bright that it might blind others, and you may feel like you need to give up or maybe choose another purpose that you have no business doing, and you might feel a little weary. But I ask you, and I asked you before, what are you doing here? Here. Here is a place. Here is the PhD Project Annual Conference. Here is a community of like-minded doers and purposeful beings that are here for a common goal. Here is a consortium of misfits, creators, quirky, offbeat drum marchers, one-of-a-kind, first-gen, just get it done people. Here is a place of infinite possibilities and finite sessions that are helping you get to your goal. Now, let's be very clear. Some of you will walk away from this experience and say, I would never pursue a PhD or this academic path. And that is okay. You did something to clarify your purpose. Your purpose may be in another area, but there is beauty in ruling out the wrong places. Here is a feeling of commonality in the midst of diversity. Here is the dissemination of information that feels overwhelming, but comforting at the same time. because here is where you belong. Here is what you've been waiting for. Here has been waiting on you. So I ask, what are you doing here? What's your purpose for being here? Now, if I was back in my home church, I would say, touch your neighbor. We can't do that in the middle of the pandemic. So we're going to say, text your neighbor, chat with your friends. Ask them, what are you doing here? What's your Genesis story? But I hope that you are here being present, being receptive, being proud, being purposeful, being you. Now that you've figured out what you're doing here, now let's get your action plan together because we're all about doers here. So let's get your do list together. Grab your thinking cap and peruse the agenda. Identify those sessions of interest. Jot down what you want to get out of the session before the session. Summarize your questions for the university representatives. Send chat notes to folks that you want to connect with. Engage your family in this experience because doers get more done when everybody is involved. Yeah, I took that from this place called Home Depot. Now, get all your things together. Get your to-do list, not to do, but your do list because you're going to do that. And so I think you might be ready. Okay. So since you're ready and since you're here and since you're going to do something, go forth and have a fantastic conference experience. Thank you much for this time with you today.